يشبه الله البشر كلا وليس له صور لا يشبه الله البشر كلا وليس له صور وليس جسما فالحذر سبحانه رب عظيم وليس جسما فالحذر سبحانه رب عظيم سبحانه رب عظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. وأسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. May Allah give us the sincere intentions and the good ending. Ameen. So, inshallah, we will continue from where we left off last week. So, the last thing we mentioned was Maliksha, the son of Sultan Alp or Albu. You can say Alp or Albu Arslan. Malik Shah, his kunya was Abu al-Fath. Abu al-Fath. So he is the son of Alp Arslan, Muhammad, the son of Dawood ibn Mikael ibn Seljuk ibn Duqaq. And he was titled Jalal ad-Dawla. Jalal ad-Dawla. Jalal ad-Dawla. When his father died, Malik Shah was with him. And although it was not the habit for him to accompany his father on any of his journeys, he accompanied him on that journey. And that was the only one he ever accompanied him on. So he assumed authority, the sultanate, after his father's attestment and the oath of allegiance given by the princes and the soldiers who pledged to obey him. And he advised, meaning his father, Alp Arslan, advised his vizier, Nidham al-Mulk, Abu Ali, regarding the distribution of lands, that is, control over lands, among his sons, with their reference point being Malik Shah. Now, when on this journey they crossed the Oxus River, the Jayhoun River, Malik Shah, he found that one of his uncles, whose name was Qarut Bek, who was the ruler of Kiraman, had rebelled against him. So he quickly moved to confront him and they faced off, they faced each other near Hamadan. And Allah granted Malik Shah victory over those who rebelled against him. And his uncle was defeated. Although his uncle tried to escape, some of the soldiers of Malik Shah, they pursued him and they captured him and they brought him back. He had offered repentance and accepted imprisonment on condition that he not be killed. But Malik Shah, he did not agree to this. He then sent him a bag, yani his uncle, Qarut. He sent Malik Shah a bag filled with letters from various princes stating that they had incited him to rebel against the obedience of Malik Shah. And they decorated this idea and dressed it up to make it seem good. So Sultan Malik Shah, he called for Nidham al-Mulk and he gave him the bag to open and to read its contents. But he didn't open it. And there was there in that place a fire brazier, and it's a small fire pit, which is portable, similar to what people use in like their backyard, a portable fire pit. So Malik Shah, he took the bag of letters and he threw the bag into the fire and let the letters burn. And there is a lot of wisdom in that because no, what one might think that yes, let's read the letters. Let's see who were in on the conspiracy and then imprison them or execute them for their treason. But these princes, they had people who were loyal to them. So what would happen to them? Would they remain loyal to their masters who were executed or imprisoned? And then you would have civil war? Or if you cover up their mistake and you overlook it, would this calm their hearts and increase them in loyalty? So Nidham al-Mulk, rahimahullah, by his burning of the letters and not reading them and not showing them to the Sultan, the hearts of the armies calmed down. And they felt, the soldiers, they felt secure, settling themselves into service of the Sultan after they had feared the bag, because most of them had in fact conspired, inciting Qarut Bek to rebel. However, this was the cause of Malik Shah's firm establishment in the Sultanate, and this was counted among the excellent opinions of Nidham al-Mulk. And again, for anyone who is interested in governance, one of the beneficial books on the subject is Siyar al-Muluk, and what is commonly called Siyar al-Muluk, the history of kings, which was authored by Nidham al-Mulk in the subject of governance. Also, Al-Imam Abu Bakr al-Turtushi, he has a book on governance as well, which we'll talk about him later. Radiyallahu anhu. Then Malik Shah ordered his uncle's execution. So he was strangled with a bowstring. The foundations were laid for the Sultan, who conquered lands, and the kingdom expanded under his rule. And he ruled what none of the kings of Islam had ruled after the early caliphs. His kingdom encompassed all the lands beyond the river, Transoxiana, including those of uh, Al-Hayatila, Babul Abawab. Does anyone know where is Babul Abawab? Babul Abawab is in Dagestan. Dagestan. It's called Darudend or Darudent. Daruden or Darudent. That's Babul Abawab. Also Rum, which is Anatolia. Diyarbakir, which is in the Kurdistan region of Turkey nowadays. Al Jazeera, and as we said before, Al Jazeera is what is between the Tigris and the Euphrates. And Asham, the Levant. And he was mentioned in the Friday sermons on all the pulpits of Islam, except for the Maghrib, except for the Islamic West. He ruled from Kashgar, a city in the furthest lands of the Turks, which is called Eastern Turkestan, which is in western China, to Jerusalem. And from Constantinople to the lands of the uh, Khazars, and also the Indian Ocean widthwise. So as far as Kazakhstan, which is the northernmost quote unquote Stan country, to the Indian Ocean widthwise. He was among the best of kings, Malik Shah, in conduct. So much so that he was called al-Sultan al-Adil. Al-Sultan al-Adil, the just Sultan. Also, Sultan Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, radiyallahu anhu, was referred to as al-Sultan al-Adil. He was victorious in wars and passionate about construction projects. He dug many canals, built walls around many cities, and established rest stations and bridges in the wilderness. He is the one who built the uh, Sultan Masjid in Baghdad, beginning its construction in Muharram of the year 485 after Al-Hijrah. He expanded the Sultan's residence there, built facilities on the road to Mecca, and spent countless amounts of money on them beyond beyond calculation. He abolished taxes and protection fees, which is racketeering in all lands. Yani this was a time in Islamic history where a person could go on foot from Kashgar in western China all the way to Mecca without any fear of highway robbery or extortion. Yani it was a period of safety and security in the Muslim lands. He was Malik Shah, devoted to hunting, so much so that it was said he kept track of what he hunted with his own hand. And it was 10,000 animals. He gave 10,000 dinars in charity after forgetting much of it, saying, I fear Allah the Exalted, Allah Almighty, for taking lives for non-food purposes. After that, whenever he killed game, he would give animals which are hunted, wild animals which are hunted, are sometimes called game. Game. After that, whenever he killed game, he would give a dinar in charity. He departed from Kufa to bid farewell to the pilgrims. Passing by al-Udhaib, accompanied them near al-Waqisah and hunted much live game on his way. He built there a minaret from the hooves of wild donkeys and the horns of gazelles that he hunted on that road. And the minaret remained until the days of Ibn Khalli Khan. It was there and is known as the minaret of horns. And this was in the year 480 after Al-Hijrah. The roads were peaceful in his days, and fears were secure. Caravans would travel from beyond the river to the farthest parts of Asham without guards, and one or two people could travel without fear or dread. Muhammad ibn Abdul Malik al-Hamadani related in his history that Sultan Malikshah set out to fight his brother Takesh and passed by the grave of Ali ibn Musa al-Rida radiyallahu anhu. May Allah raise his rank and the rank of his father. And these people, and if it is not known to you, let it be known. Musa al-Rida, his father before him and his son after him, they were Sunnis. They were not Shia. They were Sunnis. Their creed was the creed of Ahl Sunnah. Although their maqamat, their shrines, are taken as places by the Shia nowadays. But they were not Shia. So he passed by the grave of Ali ibn Musa al-Rida radiyallahu anhuma in Tus. He entered with the Wazir, Nidham al-Mulk, and they prayed there and prolonged their supplications. Then he said to Nidham al-Mulk, What did you pray for? He said, I pray to Allah, the Exalted, to grant you victory and triumph over your brother. He said, Yani Malik Shah, he said, as for me, I did not pray for this, but rather I said, O Allah, grant victory to whichever of us is more righteous for the Muslims and more beneficial for the subjects, yani meaning the people. Then Al-Hamadani also said, it is related that a preacher entered upon him and admonished him. Among what he related to him was that one of the Khusros, any Persian emperors, passed by away from his army by the gate of a garden. He approached the garden and asked for water to drink. A girl brought him a vessel containing sugar water and ice. He drank it and found it pleasant. So he said to her, how is this made? She said, sugarcane grows abundantly with us. So we press it with our hands, and this juice comes out of it. That does not necessarily mean with their bare hands, but rather some sort of contraction, uh, which is used to press the sugar cane, because sugar cane is hard. So he said, this Persian emperor, he said, go back and bring me something else. The girl did not know who he was, so she did as he asked. He said to himself, the right thing is to compensate them for this place and acquire it for myself. In other words, he's calling for um, eminent domain, that he will take it, offer them some money, and they have no choice but to accept. And then it'll be his. No sooner had she come out crying, saying, our Sultan's intention has changed. He said, how do you know that? She said, I used to take from this what I wanted without difficulty. But now I have tried hard to press the cane, and it has not yielded some of what it used to give. He knew she was truthful, so he abandoned that intention. Then he said to her, go back now, for you will achieve your purpose. And he made a pledge to himself not to do what he had intended. The girl went out with whatever she wanted of sugar water, rejoicing. The Sultan Malikshah, he said to this preacher, why do you not mention to the subjects that a Khusraw passed by a garden and said to the gardener, hand me a bunch of unripe grapes? He said to him, I cannot do that, for the Sultan has not taken his due, and it is not permissible for me to betray him. So those present marveled at this response to the story with its like. And in other words, this preacher who is advising and admonishing Sultan Malikshah against injustice and oppression. He also realizes, and the people, yani not him and the people around him in particular, they realize that the Sultan Malik Shah himself is someone who possesses wisdom and who possesses insight based upon the lessons of the past. And the purpose of citing the past history and events and stories is not the beneficial purpose. It's not for the sake of passing time. It's not merely for the sake of entertainment, but it is to take heed, to learn lessons from others. And so that you don't fall into the same mistakes or that you benefit based upon what others experienced. And is it not the case that the deeds of a person are called alama, signs? Yani the a'mal, the deeds of the human being are alamat, signs. Alamat, the plural of alama. Alama, sign. Alamat, signs. So your amal is an alama. Your deed is a sign. Your a'mal, your deeds, are alamat, signs. Signs of what? Signs for who? If a person does a good deed, then this is a sign that he is among those whom Allah accepts. That is the sign. It is a sign of acceptance. Allah, the acceptance of Allah. And the sign is for who? It is for the one who performed the deed and those who witnessed the deed. So they witness the deed if they are intelligent, if they are wise, so they act according to what they know, what they have witnessed, then they would do a similar good deed. So that their deed will be a sign of the acceptance of Allah for them. And if a person does a bad deed, an evil deed, that is also a sign. It is a sign that they are among those whom Allah has threatened with painful punishment. So evil is a sign of the threat of painful punishment by Allah. And who is that sign for? It is for the one who committed the deed and for those who witnessed it. So you see someone do something evil, you see someone do something haram, you hear a story about someone doing something haram. If you're intelligent, and sometimes intelligent people they become absent-minded. So it is as if the knowledge that they have is non-existent. As if it's non-existent. But that would be a sign for the one who did the evil and those who witnessed it and those who heard about it not to do the same thing. For just as that one is threatened with painful punishment, then you also will be threatened with painful punishment. So now you don't have to find out the hard way. Just learn from the one who did it. Learn from the one who did the evil. So you don't have to learn the hard way, as they say. You don't need to experience the evil. Someone experienced it. Just learn from the evil that they experienced and avoid it. So blessing and prosperity were linked to the forelock of Malik when he entered Asfahan, Baghdad, and any city. An uncountable number would accompany him due to their multitude. Prices would become cheap, the cost of things would fall from what they had been before him, and those who made their living with his army would gain much profit. And why would prices fall? Because of the charity and the wealth that he brought. So when so much is being paid for services and money is being given out for those who are in need, fulfilling the need of his subjects, then money becomes abundant, and thus prices will go down. Things become cheaper. Al-Hamadani also related that a female singer was brought to him while he was in Rai. He was impressed with her and found her singing pleasant. So he desired her. She said, O Sultan, I am jealous of this beautiful face, lest it be tormented by fire. And the lawful is easier. Yeah, can you imagine imagine someone on TikTok saying such a thing? Where anything now someone wants to market or sell. I noticed this on YouTube, on TikTok, on uh, Instagram, almost anything you can think of, almost anything that you have interest in, it is being sold to you through the lens of sex. If you're interested in camping and you're thinking of renting an RV, or you're looking for survival videos on YouTube, then you'll find in your stream women posing, showing off their physical features for camping equipment, or for toothbrushes, or for a pair of sneakers. Anything you can think of, they're selling it via sex As for someone who fears Allah, like this woman, she says, I am afraid of hell. She is afraid of being punished by Allah in hell. And she likes her face. She likes her face. She doesn't want her face to be burnt off in hell. So she does not want to approach. She does not want someone to approach her. She doesn't want to get close to zina. So she said, O Sultan, I am jealous of this beautiful face, lest it be tormented by fire. And the lawful, the halal, is easier. Between it and the unlawful is but one word. And one word like what? And I accept. For example, قبلت. Yani that is for a man to seek marriage from her guardian, for example, and the guardian accepts by one word. So he said, you speak the truth, and summoned the judge, the Qadi, who married her to him. He consummated the marriage with her, and he died, leaving her as his widow. The Imam al-Muqtadi bi amrillah, yani the Imam meaning the Khalifa, al-Muqtadi al-Abbasi, commander of the faithful, married the Sultan's daughter, the daughter of Maliksha. The ambassador for the marriage proposal was Sheikh Abu Ishaq al-Shirazi, author of al-Muhadhab and at-Tanbih and al-Luma' في أصول الدين or في أصول الفقه رضي الله عنه. The Caliph sent him to Naysabur for this purpose, as the Sultan was there. So the seat, the capital of the Seljuk Empire was not in Baghdad. It was in Naysabur. And their administrative language was Persian. When he arrived, so when Sheikh Abu Ishaq al-Shirazi arrived in Naysabur, he debated with Imam al-Haramain there, al-Juwayni, radiyallahu anhu. Yani a friendly debate, not a hostile debate. When he wanted to depart from Naysabur, Imam al-Haramain went out to bid farewell and held his stirrup until Abu Ishaq mounted. And this was a great sign of humility and respect that Imam al-Haramain showed for Imam Abu Ishaq al-Shirazi. He achieved great status in Khurasan, yani Maliksha, and they would, or sorry, not Maliksha, but Abu Ishaq, they would take the dust that his mule has stepped on and seek blessings from it. This is something, of course, that the Wahhabis would consider shirk, and they have no basis for that. Rather, they are enemies of the awliya, so they look for ways to express their hostility and to push people away from the blessings of the righteous. The wedding procession of the Sultan's daughter to the Caliph took place in 480 after al-Hijrah. In the remainder of this year, in Dhul Qa'dah, the Sultan was blessed with a son from the Sultan's, or the Caliph was blessed with a son from the Sultan's daughter, whom he named Abul Fadl Ja'far. And Baghdad was decorated in celebration. The Sultan had entered Baghdad twice, and it was one of the cities contained within his kingdom, with the Caliph having nothing in it but the name. Yani, he was Caliph in name only. He had no real authority. Rather, the authority was in the hands of the Sultan. The Caliph was a figurehead. Yani, practically speaking. In reality, the one who is the Caliph religiously has the authority. So when he returned to it for the third time, when Malik Shah returned to it for the third time, he entered Baghdad in early Shawwal of the year 485 after Al-Hijrah, which corresponds with the year 1092 of the Roman calendar. And when he entered, he immediately departed to the Tigris area to hunt. He hunted wild game and ate its meat. And the illness began to take its toll on him. He was bled like through cupping and or bloodletting, which is similar to what they do now when someone is giving blood. So he was bled, but not much blood was drawn. He returned to Baghdad sick, and none of his close associates could reach him. When he entered the city, he died on the second day of his entry, which was the 16th of Shawwal in the year 485 after Al-Hijrah. His birth was on the 9th of Jumad al-Awwal in the year 447. May Allah accept his good deeds. It was said that he was poisoned by a toothpick he used to clean his teeth. His coffin was carried to Asfahan, and he was buried there in a great school endowed for both Shafi'i and Hanafi scholars. No one attended his funeral in Baghdad, nor was a funeral prayer performed for him publicly, nor did they sit for condolences. Rather, it was as if he had been stolen from the world. Among the strange occurrences was that when he entered Baghdad this time, the Caliph al-Muqtadi had two sons. One was Imam al-Mustadhir Billah, and the other was Abul Fadl Ja'far, his grandson, son of the Sultan's daughter, whose birth was mentioned earlier. The Caliph had pledged allegiance to his son al-Mustadhir Billah for succession after him because he was the elder. The Sultan forced the Caliph to exile him to Basra, which distressed the Caliph greatly. He pledged extensively, or he pleaded extensively with the Sultan to abandon this opinion, but he refused. He didn't do it. He requested a 10-day respite to prepare, and it was granted. It was said that during those days, the caliph would fast and go without food. And when he broke his fast, he would sit on ashes to eat, supplicating to Allah, the Exalted, against the Sultan. The Sultan fell ill during those days and died. And the Caliph was spared this affair. And Allah knows best. Yani Allahu A'lam, maybe it was the supplication of the Caliph against Sultan Malikshah that Allah answered and gave him what he asked for. Allahu A'lam. In the year 468, Malik Shah had annexed Damascus to his kingdom, appointed his brother Tutush over the Levant, and made the rule hereditary in his family. Malik Shah is considered the last of the great Seljuk sultans. And as we said, he died in the year 485 after Al-Hijrah, which marked the beginning of the beginning of the disintegration of the Seljuk state. And he left behind four sons. One of them was called Barki Yaruq. Barki Yaruq. Barki Yaruq, his kunya was Abul Muzaffar. His title was Ruknuddin. He assumed the kingdom after his father's death. He became the Sultan after his father died. And his father had ruled what no other had ruled. He entered Samarkand and Bukhara and raided the lands beyond the river, Transoxiana. His brother, Sultan Sanjar, was his deputy over Khurasan. In his wars, he killed his uncle Tajuddawla Tutush ibn al-Arslan. He was fortunate and high in ambition and had no flaw except his constant drinking and addiction to it. His birth was in the year 474 after Al-Hijrah, and he died on the 12th of Rabi' al-Akhir, though some scholars they said it was Rabi' al-Awwal in the year 498 after Al-Hijrah. He died in the city of Burujard. So he remained as the Sultan for 20 years and some months. May Allah have mercy on him and forgive his sins. Another son was Mahmud. When Malik Shah died, his wife Turkan Khatun concealed his death and sent a secret message to the princes, satisfying them and making them swear allegiance to her son Mahmud, who was 4 years and some months old. She also sent a request to the Caliph al-Muqtadi, requesting that the Friday sermon be delivered in her son's name. He agreed to this, but stipulated that while the title of Sultanate, the title of Sultan, would belong to her son and the Friday sermon would be delivered in his name, the management of military leadership and governance of the realm would be under Prince Unar, acting according to the Council of Taj al-Mulk. The appointment of officials and the collection of revenues would also be under Taj al-Mulk's authority. And Taj al-Mulk was the one who managed affairs on behalf of Khatun. When the Caliph's message arrived to Khatun with these conditions, she refused to accept them. It was said to her, "Your son is young, and Islamic law, yani the Sharia, does not permit his guardianship." The one who addressed her in this matter was Al-Ghazali, Imam Al-Ghazali. So she yielded to him and agreed to the terms. The Friday sermon was then delivered in her son's name, and he was given the title Nasirud Dunya Wad-Din. Nasirud Dunya Wad-Din, defender of this world and religion. The sermon was delivered on Friday, the 22nd of Shawwal of that year, and he was proclaimed and as the Sultan in the two holy sanctuaries of Mecca and Medina. When Sultan Malikshah died, Turkan Khatun sent orders to Asfahan for the arrest of Barki Yaruq, the Sultan's son, and his eldest child, fearing that he might dispute the Sultanate with her son. He was accordingly arrested. However, when Malik Shah's death became known, the Nidhamiya Mamluks, military slaves formerly belonging to Nidham al-Mulk, seized weapons that had belonged to Nidham al-Mulk in Asfahan. They took them, rose up in the city, freed Barki Yaruq from prison, proclaimed him in Asfahan, and made him ruler. Barki Yaruq's mother, Zubaydah, the daughter of Yaquti ibn Dawood, who was Malik Shah's cousin, she had been fearful for her son because of Khatun, the mother of Mahmud. But relief came to her through the Nizamiya Mamluks. Turkan Khatun traveled from Baghdad to Asfahan. The army demanded money from Taj al-Mulk, and he promised to provide it. When they reached the fortress of Burjain, he ascended to it in order to bring down the money from within. Once he had established himself there, he rebelled against Khatun and refused to come down, fearing the army. So they departed from him and plundered his treasuries, but found nothing in them. For he had learned what was happening and had taken precautions of hiding his wealth. When Turkan Khatun reached Asfahan, Taj al-Mulk caught up with her and apologized, claiming that the fortress keeper had imprisoned him and that he had escaped from him to her, and she accepted his excuse. As for Barki Yaruq, when Khatun and her son Mahmud approached Asfahan, he departed from it along with the Nidhamiyah who were with him, and they traveled to Arai. There they met uh, Araghsh and Nidhami with his armies, accompanied by a group of princes, yani emirs, and they united as one force. What motivated the Nidhamiyya to incline toward Barki Yaruq was their hatred of Taj al-Mulk, because he had been an enemy of. So Taj al-Mulk had been an enemy of Nizam al-Mulk and was suspected of his murder. When they assembled, they besieged the fortress of Tabrak and took it by force. Khatun then sent armies to fight Barki Yaruq, and the two armies met near Burujard. A group of princes from Khatun's army defected to Barki Yaruq, including Prince Yalburad, Kamushtakin, Al-Jandar, and others. He was strengthened by them, and war broke out between them at the end of Dhul Hijjah. The fighting intensified, and Khatun's army was defeated and returned to Asfahan. Barki Yaruq pursued them and besieged them at Asfahan. Tajul Mulk was with Khatun's army and witnessed the battle. He fled to the vicinity of Burujard, where he was captured and brought to Barki Yaruq's army while it was besieging Asfahan. Barki Yaruq, knowing his competence, wanted to make him his wazir. Tajul Mulk began to reconcile the senior Nizamiya officers, distributing among them 200,000 dinars in addition to goods, which removed the resentment from their hearts. When the news reached Uthman, Nidham al-Mulk's deputy, he was distressed. He incited the younger Mamluks to cry for vengeance, demanding that they not be satisfied with anything less than killing their master's killer or murderer. They did so, which undid what Tajul Mulk had arranged. The Nizamiya attacked him and killed him, cutting him into pieces. And his killing took place in Muharram in the year 486 after Al-Hijrah, and one of his fingers was carried to Baghdad. Taj al-Mulk possessed many virtues and abundant noble qualities, but all his good qualities were overshadowed by his complicity in the killing of Nidham al-Mulk. He was the one who built the tomb of Sheikh Abu Ishaq al-Shirazi and constructed the madrasa adjacent to it, appointing Sheikh Abu Bakr al-Shashi as its imam. He was 47 years old when he was killed. In the following year, Barki Yaruq traveled to Asfahan, where Khatun, the mother of his brother Mahmud, had died. So those who were with her prevented him from entering the city. Then they gave him permission as a deception on their part to arrest him. When he approached the city, his brother, King Mahmud, came out to meet him, and he entered the city where he was kept under guard. It happened that his brother Mahmud developed a fever and smallpox. So the princes wanted to blind Barki Yaruq. Aminu Dawla Ibn Tilmid, the physician, said to them, King Mahmud has contracted smallpox, and it does not appear that he will recover from it. I see that you dislike having Tajud Dawla rule over you and govern the lands. So do not be hasty with Barki Yaruq. For Mahmud, he said, if Mahmud dies, make him, that is Barki Yaruq, king. And if Mahmud recovers, you can still blind him. So Mahmud died at the end of Shawwal, which was a relief after enduring hardship. Barki Yaruq sat to receive condolences for his brother. Then Barki Yaruq contracted smallpox after his brother, but he recovered and was cured. When he recovered, Mu'ayyid al-Mulk, his wazir, wrote to the Iraqi and Khurasani princes and won them over. So they all returned to Barki Yaruq and his status grew. Yani they returned to obedience to him, pledging their loyalty to him. And then his status grew, and so did the size of his army. So those are two of the sons of Malik Shah. There's a third and a fourth. One is Muhammad and the other is Sanjar. But inshallah, we will speak about them next week. Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam wa ahkam. Allah knows best. And I think, of course, it goes without saying that some of the things that these Turks used to do, yani those of them who are pious and just rulers, do, they didn't keep some of these pre-Islamic practices that existed among the Turkish tribes, like blinding a rival so that the one that they are loyal to would be secure in his rulership. This is, of course, haram. This is haram. But the pious among them did not do such things. So even though I might mention certain things that they would do without commenting on it, it should be obvious that some of the practices If it's not compatible with the rules of the religion, it's haram. It doesn't matter who does it. And it doesn't matter their uh, political or military strength. Might does not make right. If someone has a question, please feel free to ask. Um, Someone did send me one question. They said, how can someone avoid slacking if they saw the hair of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as it was said that one who sees it will die as Muslim, etc. If a person receives a bushra that they will die as a Muslim, is that the same as they will not face any hardship? Is that the same as they will not be deprived or face a trial? Is that the same as they will not face poverty or a fitna in their religion, which results in apostasy? Although, if the bushra is confirmed, then that means they would come back to Islam before they die. But maybe they waste all of their deeds and they don't come back to Islam except in the last hour before they die. Does that bushra prevent all of those things from happening? Does the bushra prevent Allah from punishing the person for sins in this life? Perhaps the person will be punished in this life. Perhaps Allah will disgrace them and they die barefoot and naked in the street because of sins, because they slacked, because they were a slacker. And they didn't take heed, and they didn't take heed of the bushra, and they were not grateful for the bushra. So they slacked, and Allah humiliated them. Perhaps they committed a sin, and then they slacked, and then Allah exposed them in front of the whole world, and they were disgraced. طيب, if you don't want any of those things to happen to you, then be grateful and don't be a slacker. If you are grateful and you are diligent in doing good deeds and preparing yourself, that doesn't mean you will not be inflicted. No, you may be inflicted. You may be inflicted. But if you are diligent, that infliction will, and you are sincere, that infliction will be a means for elevation and status. But if you are a slacker and you are insincere, that affliction will be a means for degradation. Yani let the person choose which one they want. Whichever one they choose, it is what Allah willed for them to choose. So you said, can someone lend their gym access card, which they subscribe for a year to their friend? Does the gym accept? Um, then no, they can't do it. So, okay. You have two things here. If you want to be very precise, you have two things. One, you have the card itself. If the card itself is the property of the gym member, then they can do whatever they want. They can give the card to their friend. But is the friend allowed to use the card to enter the property of someone who does not accept their presence at the property? The answer is no, they cannot do that. The the owner of the gym or whoever has charge over the gym, the friend needs their permission. Just like if I lend you something, you cannot lend it out to someone else without my permission, since I am the owner of it. Bushra means good news. Bushra. It means good news, glad tidings. Bushra. You said who were those died on street naked? Yani that was an example. That was an example. Not I was not referring to anyone in particular. Yani the point was even though a person might have received good news that they'll die as a Muslim, it does not mean Allah will not inflict them with a severe trial. It doesn't mean they'll die rich. It doesn't mean that they will die with dignity. Yani in meaning how people view them. They could die being disgraced. The people could run them out of town. But they still died as a Muslim. So the good news of dying as a Muslim is one thing. All the other stuff is something else. طيب فسبحان الله وبحمده وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأستغفر الله وأتوب إليه. Inshallah, um, the lesson on Mondays, yani the question about the gym membership reminded me of something. It will take some time before we get there, but in the book that we're covering on Mondays, there are a lot of details about buying and selling, any different transactions. So, inshallah, whenever we get there, it will take some time. Um, it is beneficial to review these cases, how to buy, how to sell, how to do a contract of borrowing, lending, renting, hiring, entrusting something with someone, authorizing someone to do something on your behalf. Most of us, even if you are a Shafi'i or a Maliki, if you live in a Western country like America, most of the time you're just acting according to Abu Hanifa or Imam Muhammad ibn al-Hasan radiyallahu anhuma, and you're just doing whatever the kuffar do and consider the money halal and the transactions valid as long as you're dealing with a kafir. It seems this is what most of the people do, even those who learned, and they're not practicing the rules of al-mu'amalat and their own madhab. They're just going under that single rule from the Hanafi school. So because of that, people are not really grounded in the rules of al-mu'amalat. Although, does a day go by? Yani purification and prayer, a lot of people they are clear on those issues. Yani, those who are learning, those who are students of knowledge, they're pretty clear on those issues and they know their limitations because you do purification and prayer multiple times a day. But after that, after purification and prayer, what else do you do which is frequent? And there are rules, detailed rules that apply. Al-mu'amalat, al-mu'amalat, transacting with people. So may Allah protect us from dealing with His money in what we have no right. آمين. طيب اللهم سامحنا واعف عنا واجعل القرآن ربيع قلوبنا ونورا لأبصارنا وجوارحنا يا أرحم الراحمين واغفر لنا يا ربي فإننا مؤمنون لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات فبارك الله فيكم وأحسن الله إليكم.
لا يشبه الله البشر كلا وليس له صور لا يشبه الله البشر كلا وليس له صور وليس جسما فالحذر سبحانه رب عظيم وليس جسما فالحذر سبحانه رب عظيم سبحانه رب عظيم